Every legend has a starting point, right? A moment where a regular person gets broken, and something incredible rises from the ashes. Today we're going deep into the origin of Nova. We're talking about a hero literally born from the tragedy that should have destroyed him, powered by the same storm that took everything he loved.
That line, that right there, says it all. It's the core of his entire story. So how does it happen? How does a quiet kid from some sleepy fishing town become, well, a living, breathing force of nature? Let's get into it. Okay, so our first chapter here is Sparks in the Storm. We're starting in a quiet coastal town and ending with a life-shattering tragedy.
Meet Ethan Novak. You know the type. Just a normal kid living in this sleepy little town, Havenport, Oregon. Dad's a fisherman, mom's a third-grade teacher. Super normal, right? He's got stacks of comics under his bed, dreaming of being one of those heroes. But in real life, he's just the quiet kid in the back of the class. But here's the thing. There was something else going on. He wasn't entirely normal.
I mean, looking back, the signs were all there. You've got these little odd moments that everyone just brushed off. You know, static crackling at his fingertips whenever he got scared, or the light bulbs in his house would suddenly flare up during a thunderstorm. He even shorted out the projector in class once. And get this, a flashlight that glowed without any batteries in it. His mom would just laugh it off, say he had lightning in his veins. Nobody had a clue, especially not Ethan, that these weren't just weird quirks. They were whispers of this incredible power just waiting.
And then, the trigger. It all happened on the night of the annual Havenport Regatta. Ethan's only 12, he's out on the boat with his dad, Daniel. And then, out of nowhere, I mean a perfectly clear sky, this monstrous storm just appears. And a bolt of lightning, like nothing you've ever seen, just spears the mast of their boat. In that last second, his dad does the only thing he can. He shoves Ethan to safety. The whole deck is just engulfed in this blue-white fire. And that power that had been whispering inside him his whole life, it didn't just wake up, it roared.
So now we move into the aftermath, a hero in secret. This is all about that unleashed power, a promise he makes to himself and, well, a hero's first steps.
Miraculously, Ethan survives. Not a scratch on him. But now he's an orphan, dealing with this incredible grief and this terrifying new reality coursing through his veins. That trauma, that loss, it was the key. It unlocked everything. Those little sparks from before, forget about them. Now, it was a full-on storm. And for the first time, he could command it. But imagine that. You're a kid, and you're filled with this thing. It's got to be isolating. You feel like a freak, maybe even a weapon.
But here's the thing. He wasn't totally alone. His best friend, Mia Torres, she found out his secret. And you'd think she'd be terrified, right? But no, she saw something else. She saw a hero. She's the one who looked at him and said, "You're like a walking battery." And then she gave him the name that would eventually shake the world. She called him Nova, like a star exploding.
And with Mia by his side, he actually started to train. It's this incredible evolution. He goes from these raw emotional surges, blowing out every light bulb on the block when he's upset, to actually getting conscious control. They'd practice in secret. Soon enough, he's taking his first steps into local heroics, becoming this mysterious Havenport guardian. And eventually, he figures out how to ride the electrical currents themselves. He learns how to fly.
All right, here's where things get really intense. Part 3, Confronting the Creator. Because what happens when you find out your entire origin story is a lie, and your greatest enemy is the one who made you?
Yeah, see, as Nova's legend starts to grow, he gets on the radar of this billionaire industrialist, Victor Kane. And Kane, he's not looking for heroes. He's looking for weapons. He's got this theory about metahuman potential, this idea that a latent genetic trait can be woken up by extreme trauma. And when he looks at Ethan, he doesn't see a person. He sees a successful experiment, a prototype, something that can be controlled, weaponized, and owned.
And this is the core conflict, right here. You've got Nova, whose power is accidental, born from tragedy, and he's driven by loss to protect people. Then you have Kane, who wants to engineer this power, and he's driven by pure hubris to weaponize humanity itself. It's like they're two sides of the very same storm.
So they finally have their first big showdown. Kane is attacking Havenport with a whole army of drones. And in the middle of all of it, Kane drops the bombshell. He looks at Nova and says, "I made you." And he tells him the truth. That storm, the one that killed his father, it wasn't some freak act of nature. It was one of Kane's experiments, a weather weapon that went wrong.
Just let that sink in for a second.
The single event that has defined your entire life. The source of all your pain, all your motivation. It wasn't an accident. It was a line item on some corporate budget. Your father's death was collateral damage. That's the moment a true hero is born. Not from a lightning strike, but from the choice you make right after a revelation like that.
And that brings us to our next chapter, the hero ascendant. This is where he goes from a local guardian to a global protector. Because Ethan made his choice, he completely rejected Kane's sick version of his origin and decided to forge his own. This is where the Havenport guardian dies, and Nova, the global protector, is truly born.
And man, did the scale of his missions just explode after that. We're talking about stopping a seismic weapon that was about to cause a massive tsunami on the Pacific coast. Then he's in Kazakhstan, taking on a nuclear silo, and he just launches the missiles harmlessly into deep space. He even sealed a dimensional rift that opened up in Tokyo, with the help of some new allies. And it all culminated in New York City, where he finally took down Kane and his whole metahuman army for good.
After all that, he wasn't just some guy from Havenport anymore, not even close. He was a symbol. The world stopped seeing some shadowy vigilante and started seeing a real beacon of hope. Proof that one person, if they have enough purpose, can really stand up against the darkness.
But here's the hard truth. Defeating one guy, even your creator, doesn't mean the war is over. And that leads us to the final part of his story, the never-ending mission. Because forging a legend is one thing, but living up to it every single day, that's the real test. And a hero's work is never, ever done.
He can never go back. He can never just be Ethan Novak from Havenport again. A normal life, a family, quiet nights, those are things he had to sacrifice. And this quote from Mia, it just hits so hard. Heroes don't get normal, but we get this. They lost that ordinary life, for sure. But what they got in return was each other, and a purpose so much bigger than themselves.
And so the watch continues. He's got a whole team now, Team Nova, based out of a lighthouse right there on the Oregon coast, a literal beacon against the storm. And the threats now are, well, they're not just muggers anymore. We're talking bioweapons in the Amazon, rogue AIs on Mars. It's insane. He's even become this moral compass for the whole world, testifying before the UN to fight against metahuman registration. He's making sure what happened to him never happens to anyone else. It's a constant, unending vigil.
Which really leaves us with one last big question. This man was forged in lightning, defined by his loss, and now he's dedicated his entire life to service. He is the storm that protects us all. But you have to wonder, when one man becomes the world's storm, can he ever find any peace for himself in the calm?